She let him sit at her table in a crowded cafe. She had no idea. He was a millionaire single father. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into the story. Back to our main character. It all started on a rainy afternoon in a crowded cafe where she never expected to meet someone who would change her life forever. After running out of the cafe, Emma's heart still pounded as she hurried through the streets, the cold rain soaking her hair and clothes. She hadn't meant to make such a fool of herself. The man Liam had seemed so nice, and she'd completely misjudged the situation. She couldn't help but feel embarrassed, but there was something else too, something she didn't want to admit. She found herself thinking about him, the way he had smiled, the way he listened to her, and most of all, how comfortable he made her feel, even when she was rambling nervously. But she didn't have time to think about that now. She had to get home and put it out of her mind. It was just another awkward blind date, nothing more. The next few weeks passed in a blur for Emma, each day blending into the next as she continued working at the diner, trying to save money for her dream of opening an art studio. But her mind often wandered back to Liam. He had been on her mind more than she cared to admit, even though they hadn't spent a lot of time together. They'd met a few more times for coffee, talking about everything and nothing, but always leaving Emma feeling like there was something more she needed to understand about him. He was kind, funny, and genuinely interested in her life, something she hadn't encountered much in her own world. Despite everything, though, she kept reminding herself that he was just another guy she had met, a wealthy, successful guy, but still, just a guy. She didn't belong in his world, and she certainly didn't want to be another one of those women who thought they could change their lives just by getting close to someone with money. One afternoon, as Emma was heading into work, she noticed a sleek black car parked outside the diner. It was an unusual sight for the usually quiet street. The car's tinted windows made it hard to see who was inside, but when Emma walked by, she saw the driver's door open. And there, standing in the doorway of the diner, was Liam. He looked different somehow, more put together than before. His suit was perfectly tailored, his dark hair combed neatly, and his posture straight, as if he belonged in a world far beyond this little diner. "Liam?" Emma called out, her voice catching in her throat as she stopped in her tracks. He looked up, a smile spreading across his face when he saw her. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice warm. "I didn't expect to see you here today. I've been meaning to catch up with you." She raised an eyebrow, unsure of what to say. "What are you doing here?" she asked, glancing at the car behind him. "I wanted to show you something," he said, taking a step closer. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other day, about your dreams, and I want to help you make them come true." Emma blinked, taken aback. "Help me?" she repeated. "How?" Liam's smile softened as he looked at her, his eyes sincere. "I've been working on a new project at my company. We're opening a space for local artists to showcase their work, and I think you could be a perfect fit. I know it's not much, but it's a start, and I want to help you get there." Emma's heart raced. This wasn't happening. Liam, the Millionaire CEO, was offering to help her with her dream? It felt too good to be true, but there was something about the way he looked at her, something that made her want to believe him. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "You don't have to say anything," Liam said, his tone gentle. "I just want to give you the opportunity. You deserve it." Emma stood there, feeling a mix of emotions swirl inside her. She wanted to be excited, to say yes, and jump into this opportunity with both feet, but something inside her hesitated. She didn't want to take something from him just because he had money. She didn't want to owe him anything, but Liam seemed to sense her hesitation. "Look, I know this is a lot," he said, his voice low, "but I'm not asking you to do anything you don't want to do. I just thought you might want a chance, a real chance, no strings attached." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. She wasn't sure if she could believe him. Was this truly about helping her, or was it just another way for him to exert control over her life? She glanced at him again, his face filled with kindness, and she knew he wasn't lying. He wanted to help her. But she also knew that accepting his help meant stepping into a world that was so far removed from hers that it might swallow her whole. "I don't know," she said softly. "It feels like I'm not the kind of person who deserves this. I've been working so hard just to get by, and now you're offering me something so much more." Liam's gaze softened, and he stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You deserve it more than you think," he said. "You've been working for everything you have, and that's why I believe in you. You have the passion, Emma. All I want to do is help you share that with the world." Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. This was a huge decision, one that could change everything for her. But as she looked into Liam's eyes, she realized that he wasn't asking for anything in return. He truly wanted to see her succeed. With a deep exhale, Emma made her decision. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "I'll do it. I'll take the chance." Liam smiled, relief and happiness flooding his face. "You won't regret it," he promised. And for the first time in a long while, Emma believed him. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to take that first step, even if it meant stepping into a world she didn't fully understand. She knew, for the first time, that she wasn't alone in her dreams anymore. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself navigating an unfamiliar world. Liam had kept his promise, introducing her to the project he had mentioned, a new space for local artists to showcase their work. It wasn't an extravagant gallery, but it was a start, and it was hers to build. The more she worked on it, the more she realized how much she had been holding back from herself. She had spent years thinking she wasn't good enough, telling herself that her dreams were too big for her. But now, with Liam's help, those dreams seemed within reach, and it scared her. She spent long nights in the studio, pouring her heart into her paintings, but every time she looked up, she couldn't help but think about Liam. He had been supportive, giving her space to work while also offering guidance and advice, but there was something else about him that drew her in. The more they spent time together, the more she felt an unspoken connection, one that neither of them had addressed, but both could feel. It wasn't just about the project anymore, it was about something deeper, something personal. But Emma couldn't let herself get caught up in that. He was a millionaire, a man with a life far removed from hers, and he had helped her because he saw potential in her. She couldn't let herself believe there was more to it. One afternoon, as Emma was finishing up a painting, she heard a knock at the door. It was Liam, standing in the doorway with a warm smile on his face. "Hey," he said, stepping inside. "How's it going?" Emma smiled, her heart racing a little. "Good, really good, actually. This project is, well, it's everything I've wanted, and more." Liam's eyes softened. "I'm glad to hear that. You've worked hard for this, Emma. You deserve every bit of it." They stood there for a moment, their eyes meeting, and for a brief second, Emma felt like the air between them was charged with something she couldn't quite put into words. But then Liam spoke again, breaking the silence. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," he said, his tone serious now. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what he was about to say, but she could feel the weight of his words before he even spoke them. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts. "I know I've been helping you with this project, and I meant it when I said I wanted to see you succeed," he began, his eyes fixed on hers. "But there's more to it than that. I've been thinking about you, about us, and I want to be honest with you." Emma's pulse quickened. She wasn't sure where this was going, but she couldn't stop herself from listening, from hanging on every word. "You've become more than just someone I'm helping, Emma," Liam continued, his voice steady but full of emotion. "You've become someone I care about. A lot. And I didn't want to say anything before, but I think it's time I told you." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She felt her chest tighten, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. She hadn't expected this, not from him, not from anyone. "Liam, she started, but he held up a hand, interrupting her. "I know this might be a lot to take in," he said softly, "but I need you to know how I feel. I don't want to complicate things, and I don't want you to feel pressured. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, in more ways than just this project." Emma stood there, her mind racing. What was he saying? He cared about her? It was hard to wrap her head around it. After everything she had been through, everything she had told herself, She had never allowed herself to think that someone like Liam could care for someone like her. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw the sincerity there, the honesty, and for the first time in a long time, she let herself feel something other than doubt. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I didn't expect this." Liam stepped closer, his presence comforting but intense. "You don't have to say anything right now. I just wanted you to know how I feel. No matter what happens, I'll support you. Always." Emma felt a rush of emotions, relief, confusion, and something else, something warm and exciting, creeping into her chest. She didn't know what to do with this information, didn't know how to react, but one thing was clear: she wasn't alone anymore. She wasn't just the girl with a dream, she was someone worth caring for, someone who could be loved. As they stood there in silence, Emma realized that this moment, this conversation, was the beginning of something new. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. She could see a new path ahead, one that was full of possibilities, and maybe, just maybe, it wasn't all just a dream anymore. Over the following weeks, Emma found herself in a whirlwind of emotions. The art studio project was taking shape more quickly than she had ever imagined, and every day felt like a step closer to her dream. But along with the excitement of her new career path, there was the constant presence of Liam, and the feelings she was slowly beginning to acknowledge but hadn't quite figured out how to deal with. Every time they met, there was a tension in the air, an unspoken understanding between them. He was still her mentor, her benefactor, but something had shifted. It was harder for Emma to ignore the undeniable attraction she felt towards him. Liam, for his part, had been nothing but supportive and patient. He always encouraged her to trust her instincts, telling her she had the talent to succeed, even if it sometimes felt like an impossible dream. Yet, he never pushed her into anything beyond the professional. It was as if he was waiting for her to come to her own conclusions about how to move forward with their relationship, if at all. One late afternoon, Emma was in the studio, finishing the final touches on one of her paintings, when she heard a knock at the door. She turned around, surprised to see Liam standing there, a smile on his face. "Hey," he said, his voice soft. "Got a minute?" Emma nodded, setting down her brush. "Of course, what's up?" Liam stepped into the room, his eyes scanning the walls of the studio before meeting hers. "I was thinking," he began, "maybe we could have dinner tonight, just the two of us. Talk about the progress here, but also about everything else." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected him to ask for more than a professional meeting. "Dinner?" she asked, her voice a little unsteady. Liam nodded, his expression serious. "Yes, I think it's time we have that conversation, Emma. About us. About what's been building between us." Emma felt a rush of emotions, most of them confusing. She had been trying to focus solely on her art and the opportunities that Liam had given her, but she couldn't deny that something had changed. She had felt it every time they spoke, every time their eyes met. I don't know what to say," she murmured. "I've been focused on this project, and I didn't think." Liam stepped closer, his voice gentle. "You don't need to say anything yet. I just wanted to give you a chance to think about it. We don't have to rush into anything, but I think we both know this is bigger than just business, don't we?" Emma swallowed hard, her heart racing. She hadn't expected him to be so direct, so open about his feelings. And yet, here he was, asking her to make a choice, one that was both terrifying and exhilarating. She had spent so long telling herself that she couldn't afford to get distracted by emotions, that she needed to keep her head in the game. But Liam was making it hard to ignore what was right in front of her. She didn't have an answer right away, but she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't ready to walk away from this. She wasn't ready to turn her back on him, on what they had started. "Okay," she said finally, her voice more steady than she felt. "Dinner sounds good." Liam's face lit up with relief, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Emma let herself smile. It was a smile full of uncertainty, but also full of hope. She didn't know what would come next, but at that moment, with Liam standing in front of her, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time possibility. That evening, they went to a quiet, intimate restaurant, a far cry from the fancy places Liam usually frequented. The atmosphere was warm, and the conversation flowed easily between them. They talked about their dreams, their fears, and the paths they had taken to get where they were. But as the night wore on, Emma could sense a shift. The connection between them, which had always been friendly and professional, began to feel more personal. Liam's hand brushed against hers once, then twice. He didn't pull away. Instead, he let the moment linger, and Emma felt herself drawn to him in a way she hadn't expected. The tension in the air was undeniable, but so was the chemistry. As dinner came to an end, Liam offered to drive her home. They walked out into the cool night air, and Emma was surprised by how comfortable she felt with him. For once, her doubts and insecurities seemed to fall away, leaving just the two of them. When they reached her door, Liam turned to her, his expression soft. "I'm glad we did this, Emma," he said quietly. "I've been wanting to do it for a while." She looked up at him, her heart pounding. "I'm glad, too," she whispered. There was a pause, a moment where everything felt suspended in time. And then, without thinking, Emma took a step closer. "Liam," she started, her voice trembling just slightly. "I've been trying so hard to keep everything separate, to focus on my work, but—" She didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she closed the distance between them and kissed him. A kiss that was both gentle and desperate, full of the emotions they had both been holding back. When they finally pulled away, their breaths mingled in the cool night air. Liam smiled softly, his forehead resting against hers. "I've been waiting for that," he said, his voice low. And in that moment, Emma knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The next few days felt like a whirlwind for Emma. The kiss they had shared had changed everything. It wasn't just about the art project anymore. It wasn't just about the opportunity Liam had given her. It was about something real, something that had blossomed between them unexpectedly. She couldn't deny the connection she felt, but at the same time, she couldn't ignore the doubts that lingered in the back of her mind. She wasn't naive. Liam had wealth, success, and a life far beyond anything she could ever imagine. And then there was her, just a waitress turned artist, still trying to find her place in the world. The disparity between their lives felt like an unspoken barrier, one that she wasn't sure how to cross. Yet, every time she saw him, every time they talked, those doubts seemed to fade, even if only for a moment. Emma spent the next few days painting and working in the studio, trying to distract herself from her swirling thoughts. But Liam was always there, in the back of her mind, and she knew he was waiting for her to figure things out. He hadn't pushed her for more, but she could tell he was eager for her to see the truth of what had begun between them. He was falling for her, and Emma could feel herself doing the same. One evening, after a long day at the studio, she walked home, feeling the weight of the decision she had been avoiding. When she reached her door, she stopped and stared at the key in her hand. It was the key to the next chapter of her life, an opportunity, a future, a life she could never have imagined. But was she ready to embrace it? To embrace him? Just as she stood there, lost in thought, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from Liam. "I'll be by to pick you up in 30 minutes. I've been thinking about you. I want to talk. Can we meet tonight?" Emma's heart fluttered. She knew this was the moment he was ready, and so was she. She typed a quick reply, agreeing to meet him, and rushed inside to get ready. 30 minutes later, Liam arrived, as promised, looking effortlessly handsome as always. They didn't go to a fancy restaurant this time. Instead, they drove to a quiet spot on the outskirts of the city, overlooking a beautiful park. The city lights sparkled in the distance, and the calm, cool air made everything feel peaceful and intimate. Liam parked the car, and they sat in silence for a moment, both of them unsure of how to begin. Finally, Liam turned to her, his gaze soft but steady. "Emma, I've been thinking a lot about us, about what this could be," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I don't want to rush you, and I don't want you to feel like you have to decide right now. But I can't ignore how I feel. I care about you, more than I've ever let myself care about anyone in a long time." Emma's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't just a confession, it was a promise, a declaration. And in that moment, she realized something that had been clear all along. She cared about him, too. She had been holding back, afraid of what might happen if she let herself fall for him. But now, sitting next to him, she could feel how real it was. "I care about you too, Liam," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. But I've been scared. Scared that this is all too much for me, that I'm not the kind of person who deserves something like this. Liam reached out, taking her hand gently in his. You are exactly the kind of person who deserves this. You've worked harder than anyone I know. You've earned everything that's come your way, and more. You've already proved that to me, and to yourself. Emma looked at him, her heart swelling with emotion. But we come from such different worlds, Liam. You have everything: wealth, power, connections. I have my dreams, my paintings, and a life that's still just getting started. Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. That's where you're wrong, Emma. You have something I've been searching for my whole life. Someone who's real. Someone who doesn't care about money or status. Someone who sees me for who I really am. That's the person I want by my side. Emma's breath caught in her throat. He was right. All along, she had been focused on the differences between them, but in truth, they were more alike than she had allowed herself to see. They both wanted the same thing, something real, something meaningful. And in that moment, Emma made her decision. She wasn't going to let fear hold her back anymore. She wasn't going to hide from what was right in front of her. She took a deep breath and looked into Liam's eyes. I'm ready, she said, her voice steady and sure. I want to be with you, Liam. I want to see where this goes. Liam's face lit up, his eyes shining with happiness. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. You don't know how happy that makes me, Emma, he whispered. And as they stood there, in each other's arms, Emma realized that this was the beginning of something beautiful, something that, no matter how unexpected, was worth taking the leap for. In the weeks that followed, Emma felt like she was living in a dream. Her life had changed so much, so quickly, that she could hardly keep up. The art studio was now thriving, thanks to the opportunities Liam had given her, and her paintings were starting to get attention. People were noticing her work, and the project was becoming everything she had ever wanted. But with all of that, there was still Liam. He was by her side, encouraging her, supporting her, and as each day passed, it became clearer that what they had was more than just a business relationship. It was something deeper, something real. The moments they shared felt effortless. There was laughter, there was ease, and there was a sense of calm that Emma had never experienced before. They spent more time together, whether it was talking over dinner, walking through the city, or simply being in each other's presence. But even as everything seemed perfect on the surface, Emma couldn't escape the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. She still couldn't fully shake the fear of being overwhelmed by Liam's world. Every time she looked around at the people who surrounded him, the wealthy, the powerful, the influential, she wondered if she truly belonged. Would she ever be able to live up to the expectations of the life he led? Was she truly good enough for him? One evening, after spending the entire day at the studio, Emma returned home to find a text from Liam asking her to meet him at his apartment. It wasn't unusual for them to meet up, but this time, the message felt different, more urgent, like he had something important to say. She quickly got ready and drove to his apartment, her thoughts racing the entire way. When she arrived, she was greeted by Liam at the door, his usual warm smile replaced by a look of seriousness. Hey, you made it, he said, stepping aside to let her in. Come on in, we need to talk. Emma's heart skipped a beat. The tension in his voice made her nervous. She followed him into the living room, where he gestured for her to sit. He was clearly preoccupied, running a hand through his hair as if trying to gather his thoughts. What's going on? Emma asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the unease that had settled in her chest. Liam took a deep breath and looked at her, his gaze intense, yet full of vulnerability. There's something I've been keeping from you, he said quietly. Something that I should have told you a long time ago. Emma felt a pang of anxiety. What was he talking about? Had she done something wrong? What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Liam hesitated, then slowly took a step closer to her. I should have told you sooner, but I didn't know how to say it, he began. Emma, my family. They have certain expectations of me. There are things about my life, things I've been involved in, that I haven't shared with you, and I'm afraid that if you knew the full truth, it might change everything between us. Emma stared at him, her heart racing. The uncertainty in his eyes only deepened her own confusion. She had never seen him like this before. He was always so composed, so confident, and now he seemed so fragile. "Liam, you're scaring me," she said, her voice trembling. "What is it? What's going on?" He looked down for a moment, clearly struggling with his next words. "I'm not just a businessman, Emma," he finally said. "I'm part of something much bigger. My family is deeply involved in a business empire, one that spans across industries. There are decisions, obligations, and relationships that come with it that I've never wanted to share with you. I didn't want you to feel like you were just a part of this bigger picture, but now I realize I should have been honest with you from the start." Emma felt a cold knot form in her stomach as she processed his words. She had known there was something more to him, something she hadn't fully understood. But this was more than she had ever imagined. "You mean your family's business?" she asked, still trying to wrap her head around it. "What does that mean for us?" "For me?" Liam's expression softened, but there was a sadness in his eyes. "It means that there are expectations I can't ignore. There are things about my world, about my family, that I've kept from you because I didn't want to bring it into our lives. But now, I realize that hiding this from you isn't fair to you. You deserve the truth." Emma sat there in stunned silence, the weight of his words settling heavily on her. She had never imagined that Liam's life was anything less than perfect, and now she was faced with a reality she didn't know how to handle. She had always been so focused on her own struggles, her own insecurities, that she hadn't considered what kind of burdens Liam carried. And now, she was left wondering how much of this she could really handle. How much of his world was she prepared to enter? "I don't know what to say," Emma whispered. This is a lot to take in." Liam nodded, his face full of regret. "I know, and I understand if you're not ready for this. I don't want to force you into anything, but I needed you to know. I need you to understand that no matter what happens, my feelings for you are real. But I also know that this world we're in, this life we're building together, is complicated." Emma stared at him, her mind racing. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: she wasn't ready to let go of what they had. Despite the fear, despite the unknowns, she cared about him too much to walk away now. "I don't want to lose you," she said, her voice shaking. "I don't want to give up on us." Liam's expression softened, and he stepped closer, taking her hand in his. "You won't lose me, Emma," he said, his voice full of promise. "I'm not going anywhere." And in that moment, Emma realized that no matter how complicated things got, no matter how much she had yet to learn about his world, she wasn't willing to give up on him. She wasn't willing to walk away from the one thing that felt right in her life. The days following Liam's confession felt like a turning point for both of them. Emma was still processing the weight of his words, the complexity of his life that she had never imagined. She was no stranger to hard work and sacrifice, but the world Liam was a part of the world his family had built felt overwhelming, even though he had promised her that nothing would change between them. Despite all of this, Emma wasn't ready to walk away from him. She couldn't ignore the bond that had grown between them, the way his presence made her feel safe, understood, and seen in a way she had never experienced before. They spent the next few days together, talking, sharing their fears and hopes, and slowly finding a way to navigate the complexities of their lives. Liam was patient, understanding, never pushing her to move faster than she was comfortable with. But as much as Emma tried to bury her doubts, they still lingered. Every time she looked at Liam, she saw more than just the man she had fallen for. She saw the pressures of his family's expectations, the weight of his responsibilities, and the complicated relationships that came with being part of something so large. One evening, after another long day in the studio, Emma and Liam were sitting in his apartment. They had been talking about the next steps for her art project, when the conversation took an unexpected turn. "I've been thinking a lot," Liam began, his voice serious. "About what we talked about before, about my family and all the things I've kept from you." Emma looked at him, a little nervous, but she was ready to listen. "You don't have to worry about it," she said softly. "I told you I'm not going anywhere." Liam smiled faintly, but there was a sadness in his eyes. "I know you say that, and I believe you, but I also need to be honest with you about something else." Emma's heart skipped a beat, and she sat up straighter. "What is it?" she asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. "It's not just my family's business," he said, his voice low. "It's the fact that there are people in my life who have expectations, who believe I should follow a certain path, one that might not include you. There are things I can't escape, things I can't change, and I don't want to drag you into it." Emma's chest tightened as she processed his words. She had known there were complications, but hearing him say it out loud made it feel even more real. She wanted to believe in them, in what they had. But how could she ignore the reality of his world? "I don't want to be a part of your family's business, Liam," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just want us to be together, without all the other stuff. But I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be the person you need without getting lost in all of it." Liam reached across the table and took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "I don't want you to change, Emma. I don't want you to lose who you are in all of this. What I'm saying is, I can't be the man I want to be for you unless I tell you everything, the good and the bad. You deserve that." Emma squeezed his hand, trying to steady her racing heart. "So, what do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Liam's gaze softened as he looked at her, his thumb gently brushing over her knuckles. "We take it one step at a time," he said quietly. "We don't have to have all the answers right now. I just need you to know that I'm here for you, that I want to make this work, whatever it takes." Emma felt a mixture of relief and fear wash over her. She wanted to believe in what Liam was saying. She wanted to believe that they could make this work, that they could overcome the obstacles standing between them. But there was still so much uncertainty, so much that she didn't understand. "I don't know what the future holds," she whispered, "but I'm willing to try." Liam's face lit up with a smile, a sense of gratitude in his eyes. "That's all I need, Emma. Just a chance to prove to you that this is real." For the first time in a long while, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be challenges ahead, but she wasn't ready to give up on them, not yet. As she looked into Liam's eyes, she realized that no matter how complicated things got, they had something worth fighting for. And in that moment, she made a silent promise to herself and to him. She wouldn't let fear control her. She would step into this uncertain future with him, ready to face whatever came next, as long as they faced it together. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam continued to navigate the complexities of their relationship. Every day brought new challenges and decisions, but they were no longer facing them alone. They learned to communicate more openly, sharing their fears and hopes with one another. Emma felt herself growing, not just as an artist, but as a person who was learning to trust, to love, and to embrace the unknown. She had always been cautious, always held back, but now she was learning to let go. She was beginning to understand that love wasn't about having all the answers. It was about taking risks, making mistakes, and being willing to face the uncertainties together. Liam, too, was learning. He had always been the one who made decisions, who controlled the narrative of his life. But with Emma, he was learning to let go of that control. He was learning that true happiness didn't come from power or success. It came from being with someone who saw him for who he really was. Despite their different worlds, despite the challenges they faced, they had found something real, something worth fighting for. They spent more time together, finding new ways to support each other. And slowly, the doubts that Emma had once carried began to fade. She no longer feared the difference in their backgrounds. She no longer feared the future. She realized that what truly mattered was the love they shared, the way they made each other better, the way they brought out the best in each other. Then, one evening, after a long day at the studio, Liam invited her out for dinner. It wasn't a fancy restaurant this time, just a quiet, intimate place where they could talk without distractions. They sat across from each other, sharing a meal and talking about everything that had happened, their journey together, the obstacles they had overcome, and the future they were beginning to imagine. As the evening wore on, Liam reached across the table and took Emma's hand in his. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice filled with sincerity, "about us, about what we've built together. And I know it hasn't been easy, but I wouldn't change a thing. You've changed my life, Emma, in ways I didn't even know I needed." Emma looked at him, her heart full. She hadn't expected this, hadn't expected to be here, sitting with him, feeling like everything was falling into place. But it was. It was all falling into place. "You've changed mine too," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I never thought I could have this. Never thought I could have someone who understands me like you do." Liam smiled, his eyes warm and full of affection. "You deserve it all, Emma. Everything you've worked for, everything you've dreamed of. I want to be there with you, every step of the way." Emma felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she smiled back at him, a sense of peace washing over her. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't know exactly where their journey would take them, but for the first time in a long time, she didn't need to. She knew that as long as they were together, they could face anything. That night, as they walked home hand in hand, Liam stopped and turned to her, his expression serious. "There's something I want to ask you," he said, his voice low. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she looked up at him. "What is it?" "I know we've been through a lot, and I know we still have challenges ahead, but I can't imagine my life without you in it. So, Emma, will you marry me?" Emma stood there, speechless for a moment, her mind racing. She had never imagined this, never imagined that her life would lead her to this moment. But as she looked at Liam, standing there with love and hope in his eyes, she realized that this was exactly where she was meant to be. "Yes," she whispered, tears finally falling as she threw her arms around him. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam smiled, his face breaking into a wide grin as he held her close. And in that moment, with the world around them fading into the background, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of their journey, one that would be filled with love, challenges, and the promise of a future they would build together. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it would be theirs to walk. And as long as they had each other, Emma knew they could overcome anything. Their love was the foundation they could build their future on. And no matter what came next, they would face it together. Millionaire stories often carry an air of luxury and power, but at the heart of every great tale, there is always a deeper connection, an unexpected bond. This story, like so many millionaire stories, begins with a chance encounter where two very different worlds collide. Emma, a young artist with big dreams, meets Liam, a wealthy businessman, whose life is anything but ordinary. As their paths cross, Emma is drawn into a world she never imagined, filled with both excitement and uncertainty. What begins as a simple business opportunity soon transforms into something more, as Liam offers her not just his support, but his heart. Throughout their journey, Emma must navigate the complexities of their relationship, battling her own insecurities and fears about belonging in Liam's world. This is where the essence of millionaire stories truly shines, two people learning to find balance amidst the chaos of wealth, expectations, and love. As Emma embraces the changes in her life, she realizes that the love she shares with Liam is more valuable than any amount of money, and that true wealth lies in finding someone who accepts you for who you truly are. With each challenge they face, Emma and Liam learn more about themselves and each other, proving that the most unexpected love stories are often the most powerful. Just like other millionaire stories, this journey shows us that it's not about what you have, but who you choose to share it with. From overcoming personal doubts to embracing the unknown, this millionaire story reminds us that love, trust, and genuine connection are the true treasures in life. As Emma and Liam look forward to a future together, their story is a testament to the idea that no matter your background, love is what ultimately defines your worth. This is a tale of transformation, hope, and the power of love, one that mirrors many great millionaire stories, proving that the richest people are those who find love and fulfillment in the most unexpected places.